The crystal chandeliers of the Burj Al Arab ballroom cast diamonds of light across Amira Hassan's emerald dress as she searched the crowd for Tariq. Her heart raced with anticipation. Tonight, at the annual company gala, he'd promised to announce their wedding date. 3 years of patience, of supporting his career while hers remained stagnant, would finally bear fruit. She found him near the balcony, champagne glass in hand, but her smile froze. Nadia Khalil stood pressed against him, her diamond-laden fingers wrapped possessively around his arm. Senior architect. Heirs. Everything Amira wasn't. Tariq. Amira's voice barely rose above the orchestra. He turned, and the guilt in his eyes confirmed her worst fears before he even spoke. Amira, we need to talk. Tariq's voice carried across the suddenly quiet section of the ballroom. Conversations halted. Heads turned. I can't do this anymore. Nadia and we're together now. She understands my ambitions. You. He gestured vaguely. You're still just a junior architect. I need someone who matches my level. The room spun. Amira felt every eye on her, heard the whispers ignite like wildfire. 3 years. 3 years of her life, reduced to this public execution. You're breaking our engagement here? Now. Her voice cracked despite her desperate attempt at composure. Nadia smirked, raising her hand to display a massive engagement ring. The very ring Amira had admired in a magazine with Tariq months ago. Some women are destined for greatness, Habibti. Others are just stepping stones. Tears blurred Amira's vision as laughter rippled through the crowd. She ran, her heels clicking against marble as she fled the ballroom, the pitying stares, the triumphant sneers. In the hotel lobby, she collapsed onto a velvet bench, mascara streaming down her face. Rough evening? The voice was deep, warm, tinged with concern. Amira looked up through her tears at a man in an impeccably tailored Tom Ford suit. His dark eyes held kindness and something else, recognition, perhaps even admiration. I'm sorry I'm a mess, she whispered, trying to compose herself. He sat beside her, maintaining respectful distance, and offered a silk handkerchief. Rashid Al-Mansouri. And you're far from a mess. You're someone who deserves much better than whatever happened up there. His name registered through her grief. Rashid Al-Mansouri. Billionaire. Legend. The man who built an empire from nothing. What if I told you, he said softly, that tonight could be the beginning of everything rather than the end? Amira stared at Rashid Al-Mansouri, certain she'd misheard through her tears. I don't understand. Walk with me. He stood, extending his hand. Something in his calm demeanor steadied her chaos. She took it. They moved to a private terrace overlooking the Dubai Marina, lights glittering like scattered stars on water. Rashid leaned against the railing, studying her with unsettling intensity. I have a business problem, he began. I'm finalizing a merger with the Al-Zarani Group, conservative, traditional family. They won't sign unless they believe I'm settled. Serious. They want to see me with someone who represents stability, culture, intelligence. And you're telling me this because? Because I've followed your work, Amira Hassan. Your designs for the Sustainable Housing Project. Brilliant. Overlooked by your firm but brilliant. You have grace, talent, resilience. He paused. I need someone genuine by my side for 3 months. Someone who won't be there for my money because she'll be properly compensated regardless. Amira's mind reeled. You want to pay me to pretend to be your girlfriend? My chosen companion. 4 business events, galas, family dinners. In return, 5 million dirhams, industry connections, and your architectural portfolio presented to the finest firms in the Emirates. 5 million dirhams. Her mother's medical bills. Her family's debts. Her own suffocated dreams suddenly gasping for air. Why me? You could have anyone. Rashid's expression softened. Because when I watched you face that humiliation upstairs, you didn't beg or make a scene. You held your dignity and walked away. That's the woman I need beside me, one who knows her worth even when others are too blind to see it. Memories flooded back. Her mother's weak smile in the hospital bed last week, apologizing for being a burden. Her father's exhausted face after double shifts. Her own rejected designs, Tariq's dismissive comments about her little projects. There are rules, Rashid continued. Professional boundaries. A contract. This is business, Amira. Nothing more. She thought of Tariq and Nadia, probably dancing together upstairs. Of returning to work Monday facing their pity and mockery. Or she could choose something different. When do we start? She asked. Rashid's smile transformed his entire face. How about we walk back into that ballroom right now? Let me introduce you as my partner for the Al-Zarani merger celebration next week. Amira's tears had dried. In their place, something fiercer burned. Let's make an entrance. The following week blurred like a fever dream. Rashid's team descended on Amira like benevolent storm. Stylists, etiquette coaches, a personal shopper who made her previous wardrobe look like costume jewelry beside diamonds. You're not changing her, Rashid had insisted to his image consultant. You're revealing her. Now, standing in his penthouse overlooking the Palm Jumeirah, Amira barely recognized herself. The woman in the mirror wore a midnight blue gown that flowed like water, her dark hair swept into an elegant twist. But the real change was deeper, in her posture, her steady gaze, the quiet confidence blooming in her chest. Stunning. Rashid emerged from his study in a charcoal suit. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, not the polite appreciation of a business associate, but hunger quickly masked. You clean up well yourself, she said, surprised by her own boldness. Their first event was the Al-Zarani merger celebration. Amira's heart hammered as they entered the ballroom. A different venue, but the same society crowd. She felt their stares, heard the whispers. Then she saw Tariq's face, shock, then something that looked painfully like regret. Rashid's hand found the small of her back, warm and possessive. Breathe. You belong here more than any of them. The evening unfolded like choreographed magic. Rashid introduced her to business magnates, architects she'd idolized for years. When she spoke about sustainable design, they actually listened. Rashid watched with undisguised pride. You're not what I expected, she whispered during a waltz, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization. Neither are you. His hand tightened on her waist. I thought you'd be grateful, compliant. Instead, you argued with Sheikh Mohammed about zoning regulations. Should I not have? You were magnificent. His voice dropped, intimate. You're not playing a role, Amira. You're just yourself. That's rarer than you know. The music slowed. They moved closer, his breath warm against her temple. Amira felt heat pooling low in her stomach, her skin tingling where his fingers traced her spine. Rashid, she breathed. He pulled back slightly, eyes dark with conflict. We should maintain professional distance. But his thumb still caressed her wrist, his gaze still lingered on her lips. That night, lying in the guest suite of his penthouse, Amira touched her lips and wondered what was happening. This was supposed to be business. So why did her heart race every time he entered a room? 6 weeks into their arrangement, Amira had forgotten what life felt like before Rashid. Morning coffee discussions about architecture and philosophy. His hand automatically finding hers at events. The way he listened, truly listened, when she spoke as if her words mattered more than anything else in the world. But she'd also learned his wounds. Late one night, after too much wine, he'd confessed about Layla, the woman who'd loved his wealth but despised his humble origins, who'd betrayed him with his former business partner. I built this empire to prove I was worthy, he'd said quietly. Now I wonder if anyone will ever see past it to who I actually am. Amira had taken his hand then, squeezed it. I see you, Rashid. The look he'd given her had burned with such intensity she'd fled to her room, terrified of what it meant. Now, at the final merger celebration, disaster struck. A business rival, Khalid Mansour, approached the microphone during speeches. How touching Rashid's fairy tale romance, Khalid announced, his smile venomous. Except my sources confirm it's a contracted arrangement. She's paid to be here, ladies and gentlemen. All of it, an elaborate deception. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The Al-Zarani family exchanged dark looks. The merger, everything, hung by a thread. Rashid's face went pale, his empire crumbling in real time. Amira didn't think. She stood, moving to the microphone with the same courage that had carried her through every challenge. You're absolutely right, she said clearly. It started as a contract. Rashid needed someone for business appearances. I needed financial security. But here's what your sources didn't tell you, what happened after. She turned to Rashid, her heart in her throat. I fell in love with a man who saw my potential when everyone else saw limitations. Who believed in my dreams before I did. Who makes me laugh, challenges me to be better, and treats everyone, from CEOs to parking attendants, with equal respect. Yes, it started as business. But it became real the moment I realized I'd rather have one genuine day with Rashid than a lifetime of pretty lies with someone else. The room was silent. Rashid stood frozen, his eyes glistening. The contract ends tonight, Amira continued. And I'm choosing to stay anyway. Not for money. Not for connections. But because I love him, every guarded, brilliant, generous piece of him. Rashid crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. His hands cupped her face and then his lips found hers, desperate, claiming, tender. The room erupted in applause, but Amira heard nothing beyond her own thundering heart. They barely made it back to the penthouse before Rashid pressed her against the door, his kiss consuming, reverent. Amira's fingers tangled in his hair as he lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist. "Tell me you meant it," he breathed against her neck. "Tell me this isn't just." "I meant every word." She pulled back to meet his eyes. "I love you, Rashid. The real you." What followed was a night of discovery, tender touches, whispered confessions, barriers finally shattered. He worshipped every inch of her skin, learned what made her gasp, what made her arch into him. She traced the scars on his back from his impoverished childhood, kissed away years of loneliness. They came together like a storm, then again like a gentle wave, then once more at dawn, unable to get enough. In the morning light, wrapped in silk sheets, Rashid traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "Stay. Not as a contract. As my partner. In everything." Amira's heart swelled, but she'd learned her worth these past months. "I received a job offer yesterday. Senior architect position at Henderson Global. They want me to lead their Middle East Sustainable Development Division." She felt him tense. "Where?" "They have offices in London, Singapore, and Dubai." She turned to face him, her hand on his chest. "I'm taking the Dubai position." "You are." "I learned something from you, Rashid. I don't need to be saved, I needed to be seen. You gave me that gift. Now I want to build my career as your equal, not your dependent. I want to stand beside you because I choose to, not because I need to." His smile was radiant, boyish. "You're extraordinary. I learned from the best." Epilogue, 6 months later. The wedding took place at sunset on a private beach, intimate and perfect. Amira's mother wept happy tears, healthy now. Her father embraced Rashid as a son. Even Tariq had sent congratulations. He'd heard about her award-winning designs, her rising star. As they danced under the stars, Rashid whispered, "I have a confession." "Oh." "That night in the hotel lobby, I'd seen your portfolio months before. I attended that gala specifically to meet you. The contract was just an excuse." Amira laughed, joy bubbling through her. "So you're saying you orchestrated everything?" "I created an opportunity. You're the one who seized it and became unstoppable." She kissed him deeply, tasting their future, built on truth, respect, and love that transformed them both. She'd walked out broken. But she'd risen as something better, not the billionaire's chosen woman, but her own masterpiece, complete and whole. The end.